My family are suing me for the rights to my baby for something they did, but they don't know what I have up my sleeve. My daughter Emma was 3 weeks old when my mother showed up at my apartment with a lawyer and custody papers. I was still recovering from the C-section, barely sleeping 4 hours a night, trying to figure out how to keep a tiny human alive. Mom walked right past me without asking, went straight to the nursery, and picked up Emma like she owned her. The lawyer introduced himself as Richard and handed me documents with my family's names listed as co-petitioners for parental rights. My mother, my father, my brother Kyle, and his wife Jennifer. All 4 of them were suing me for legal custody of my own child. I asked what this was about, and Mom just smiled while rocking Emma. "We have as much right to her as you do, sweetie. Maybe more, considering our contribution." She said it so casually, like discussing who paid for dinner. The documents mentioned genetic rights and prior agreements, but I'd never signed anything. I'd gotten pregnant after a night I barely remembered at Kyle's house during a family dinner 9 months ago. I'd felt sick afterward, went home early, woke up the next morning with gaps in my memory. 2 months later, I found out I was pregnant. My family had been strange about the whole pregnancy from the start. Too involved, too excited, too insistent on coming to every single doctor's appointment. They'd show up uninvited with baby supplies and furniture, rearranging my apartment while I was at work. Mom kept talking about how this baby was a family project, how we'd all raise her together. When I said I wanted to do this alone, my father got angry in a way I'd never seen before. "You don't understand what went into making this happen," he'd said. Really weird thing to say about a pregnancy. During labor, my mother actually tried to ban me from the delivery room, telling the nurses she was the primary guardian. The nurses looked confused and asked me directly, and I had to literally yell at my own mother to get out. She'd left, but not before saying, "This isn't over, you'll see." After the lawyer left, I started going through medical records from my pregnancy. The hospital had genetic testing results I'd never requested. Someone had ordered a full DNA panel on Emma right after she was born, comparing her genetics to my entire family. The results were marked urgent and sent to my mother's email address, not mine. I called my insurance company and found out my mother had been listed as my medical proxy without my knowledge. She'd authorized tests, received results, made decisions about my care during pregnancy. When I asked how this was possible, they said I'd signed consent forms back in March. But in March, I'd been at Kyle's house for that family dinner where I'd gotten sick. The next week, my brother Kyle came by with more papers. He explained they'd invested heavily in making Emma possible, that she wouldn't exist without their planning and resources. He kept using that word invested, like I was some kind of business venture instead of his sister. I asked what he meant, and he just said I'd understand eventually, that the court would explain everything when they reviewed the biological evidence. Biological evidence of what? I started finding things hidden in my apartment. Medical bills I'd never seen for procedures I didn't remember having. Consent forms with my signature on them, but the handwriting looked wrong. Emails between my mother and a fertility clinic dated 8 months before Emma was born, discussing genetic matching and optimal timing windows. My sister-in-law, Jennifer, finally told me the truth after I cornered her at a coffee shop. She was crying, saying she'd tried to stop them, but my family had been planning this for over a year. They'd been so desperate for a baby with our family genetics after Jennifer had 3 miscarriages. She said they did something at that family dinner in March, something to me that I didn't consent to, something that made Emma's conception not entirely natural or consensual. She wouldn't say exactly what, just kept repeating, "I'm so sorry," over and over. I went home and tore apart every box my mother had brought over. In one, I found medical records showing Emma's DNA matched not just me, but showed specific genetic markers from my brother Kyle as well. Impossible, unless they'd somehow used his genetic material without telling me. That's when I understood everything. They'd orchestrated my pregnancy using family DNA from Kyle. Probably during that night I couldn't remember. And now they were suing for custody, claiming genetic parental rights because of what they'd done to me. But here's what they don't know. I've been recording every single conversation with them for 3 weeks. I have Jennifer's confession on video. I found the clinic's records proving they did this without my consent. And tomorrow morning, I'm not just fighting their custody case. I'm filing criminal charges against all 4 of them. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below.